few of those nuggets, and we're going to look at what they are talking about. I thought this was pretty cool. So, anyways, I hope all of you guys are having a great day. Hope that you guys enjoyed DEF CON 0 last night. I still have not caught up on sleep, exhausted as ever can be, but the show must go on. Tonight's show is Dark Delight, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. What that means. What is happening right now in the grand scheme of things, the disclosure that is occurring within the world, and we're going to also weigh that. We're going to look at this and say, is there potential that this goes the opposite way, that we've been duped? And I say that for a reason, because I don't trust anybody. These days, I've had some really, really good friends that after decades, whoop, instantaneously, never believe a word you say, just left and get out. That was it. So you know what? I don't trust anybody, especially politicians. And so I look at things and I see things and how they are unfolding, and I wonder, are there points to where potentially globalists are still in control and implementing their systems and their agenda? We're going to look at some of that. We'll get into it here in a little bit in the show. My honest opinion, I don't think so for 1 second, but you have to look at both sides of the equation. Everything that we've been looking at so far, when we're seeing what Donald Trump's doing, how he's implementing this new system that is coming about, it is spot on. It's easy to foretell what's going to happen next. So that's why I'm very confident that we are on the right side with this. But just to say it, if they do plan to implement their commie-fascist, oligarchical controlled, technocratic New World Order agenda, well, there's 100 million armed Americans just sitting around waiting for a revolution. You and I all know that. So today, Archbishop Carlos Maria Vigano dropped another bomb on X. 2 days in a row he has posted. This one was quite interesting because this is a tone I've never heard Vigano actually talk about. Let's go ahead and start with this and play this. This will be a good way to start this conversation. I'm not going to get too in-depth with Epstein today, but we are going to talk a little bit about it.
A few weeks ago, an important collaborator of Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, was arrested for pedophilia and child pornography. I'm referring to Slade Summer, a man with ties to the world of Broadway and cinema, who played a role in the effort to debunk the infamous Pizzagate affair. That is, the network, filthy complicity and horrendous crimes against minors that revolves around the international deep state. We have learned that certainly Jeffrey Epstein and most likely Ghislaine Maxwell were members of the Israeli Mossad. This makes us understand that the famous trips of many well-known people to Epstein Island were used to blackmail them by collecting evidence of their guilt in participating in heinous ritual crimes against minors. And if the heads of state and governance officials of the Western world do not dare to breathe out a word of protest against the massacres of civilians in Gaza Strip, it is legitimate to assume that this attitude is due to the intensive dossier with videos inculpating them that are in possession of the Israeli intelligence services. The same thing must be happening with the preparation of the fake pandemic emergency, which was lavishly replicated in all the member states of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, and also with the farce of the Ukrainian crisis. But this blackmail of the powerful of the world constitute the unifying
I cut out on me too, but a lot to unravel there with this video with Vigano. And he says, and I'll quote him, "We have learned that certainly Jeffrey Epstein and most likely Ghislaine Maxwell were members of the Israeli Mossad. This makes us understand that the famous trips of many well-known people to the Epstein's Islands were used to blackmail them by collecting evidence of their guilt in participating in heinous ritual crimes against minors. And if the heads of states and governments and officials of the Western world do not dare to breathe a word of protest against the massacres of civilians in the Gaza Strip, it is legitimate to assume that this attitude is due to the extensive dossiers in videos inculpating them that are in the possession of the Israeli intelligence services." Wow. And then he also calls out COVID, the fake pandemic. Now, this is pretty huge for a few different reasons. Number one is you have Archbishop Vigano of the Catholic Church, who's, I believe, I don't want to say he's excommunicated, but he's definitely in hiding. But he has been a very staunch supporter of Donald Trump and what is happening right now and exposing the deep state, the deep church, and what's going on. Now, him calling out Israel like he just did, I think is critically important. See, there's people in the midst of Donald Trump that appear, even through Donald Trump's own words, to be more powerful than Donald Trump. If you go back, and I believe it was Charlie Kirk's funeral that Donald Trump talked about how Susie Wiles is in the audience. And Susie, she's the most powerful woman in the world. She could blow up single countries just by pointing a finger. He goes, something that I can't even do. What do you mean there? Typically, the chief of staff has immense power over the White House. In the early 2000s, Susie Wiles worked for Benjamin Netanyahu's re-election campaign. She's been directly connected to lobbying companies of Big Pharma and the military-industrial complex. She's what we would consider to be a neocon holdover. Now, is Susie Wiles implicating Donald Trump? Is she controlling Donald Trump? I would say no. I would say no because of certain things that we've seen. More prominently is the surrounding of Israel in the Middle East. We're going to talk about that in a little bit when we get to the later parts of the show. We're going to look at some new information that's came out about this. We're going to look at the deals that have already been portrayed about this. I want to actually go back to the fourth PSYOP group video. And I want to show you some very, very interesting things that some Anons have noticed with it. Number one is there's a few different screenshots that make you wonder. The Ghost Army? How about this one? The first Anon PSYOP division? That doesn't actually exist, okay? So that's what it's talking about. The first Anon PSYOPs division. We come in many forms. Was this a call out to Anons and Anons alike? Well, maybe the next one actually helps. The second civilian PSYOPs division with Pepe as the ghost. Now, this is from the fourth PSYOP division. And guess what? They know you're paying attention. And they're telling you, we know you're paying attention. And they know that Anons will see this. They know Anons will break that video down looking for hints and clues. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a PSYOP. I think it's just them fucking with people. I could be wrong, but it's a cool little call out for them to do that. All right. Now, for the real stuff. A few months ago, I talked about this. Well, I think my mic just changed. 1 second. Okay, make sure I'm going back to my new mic now. Okay, I think I'm there. Yes, we should get. I kicked a cable and foot and my mic just switched off. All right. A few months ago, I was talking about this, what's going on in Europe, specifically Great Britain. We're watching a radical Islam and migrant takeover of Great Britain. And Keir Starmer seems to be leading it on, not caring one bit. It seems that the globalist agenda is in full effect. of everything that's happening in Europe right now. We started to discuss that at some point in time, there's going to be a revolution, that the people of Great Britain are going to rise up. And I said, where is the ICA? Where's the IRA? What happened to the Irish? The Irish used to stand up for these types of things. Well, here you go.
Citizens of Ireland, we address you tonight with a heavy heart, but with a firm resolve. We are the Irish Citizen Army, also known as the ICA, formed as of the 7th of June 2025. We created the rebirth of the ICA of 1913. We are all citizens, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters, driven to finally take action on the intolerable corruption which is forced on us by the Irish and British governments. We also believe that the British government has no right in Ireland, has never had any right in Ireland, and never can have any right in Ireland. We represent all of Ireland's 32 counties. We refuse to witness the suffering of our citizens. Our Irish citizens refuse to be treated as second-class citizens on their own island. We, the ICA, refuse to witness our heritage and culture being erased. We refuse to witness the suffering and killing of innocent Irish citizens. We, the ICA, will fight for Ireland. We, the ICA, will take the necessary steps to achieve our goals.
Our plan is to take action on the injustice of Irish citizens and to fight for a fair, free and independent Ireland. We are fighting for our future, the future of our children, the future of Ireland. We are fighting for our identity, our heritage and our culture. Our system is corroded from within, of the institutions of state hollowed out by greed and self-interest. We have borne witness to a creeping paralysis within the very heart of our government. Laws crafted to serve the people have been twisted to serve private pockets. Public funds, intended for healthcare, education, the protection of our communities, for our own homeless and our children have been siphoned off, diverted, or simply vanished into the ether of unaccountability.
Our communities, once bastions of neighborly support, are fracturing under the weight of fear. We hear your pleas, we see your worry, and the grim reality is that our country is no longer safe to walk the streets. Between the sheer number of illegal, undocumented military-age male migrants that flood our once beautiful streets, causing fear, terror, and threat of violence upon Irish communities, our own government threatening to remove our beautiful and sacred tricolour, the flag that so many brave men and women fought for. The very notion of peace and order, hard won over generations, is being systematically dismantled. We cannot allow the dream of a truly independent Ireland, won through such hardship, to be corrupted into a hollow shell serving only a select few.
All right. It's begun. We knew that this was going to come at some point in time, that people were going to start rising up within their own countries. And now you have the formation of the ICA in Ireland. And although they've been established since June 7th, nothing's happened. Well, I would say that you're probably going to see something relatively soon. And these people don't seem like they are messing around. Now, I condemn violence at all levels, and I don't think that we need to resort to violence to resolve these situations, although I don't live in Ireland. I'm not over there seeing how bad it truly is, and I believe that Great Britain is much more far along on what was happening than we are here, that we were in the migration phase. They're past the migration phase. They are in the occupy stage. They are in the stage where they are occupied by a foreign presence that outnumbers them and wants to kill them. Here, we caught it. We were lucky. We were fortunate. We were fortunate for people like Donald Trump, who rose up and started to eliminate the threat to our country. Although there's a lot more work to be done, I think that America in a sense, has been saved. Although it's going to be very interesting to see what begins to unravel in Europe. Well, let's go over to Saudi Arabia. Catherine Herridge, very, very interesting. A new part of her 9/11 documentary series. Newly declassified FBI CIA reports reveal 2 Saudi government employees may have served as an advanced team for 9/11 hijackers. These records challenge the official 9/11 narrative, shifting the timeline back to December 1998, almost 3 years before Al Qaeda terrorists killed nearly 3,000 Americans on September 11th. No, I don't believe that. I believe that they were involved and that's what they thought they were doing, but it definitely wasn't them who did this. But the interesting part here is December 1998. Now, those Saudi Arabian terrorists came over to the United States. They had to get State Department approval. They had to go through an office in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to get passports, to get the pass to come over to the United States of America. Do you know who signed off on that? The CIA station chief in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, by the name of John Brennan in 1998. Let that sink in for a minute. Now you understand on September 11th on the cue boards why it says James Comey and John Brennan, 2 towers forming on September 11th. John Brennan was a direct involvement with this. James Comey was one of the U.S. attorneys at the Eastern District of Virginia who oversaw the financing of overseas Saudi terrorist organizations and groups. And on January 1st, 2002, James Comey became the U.S. attorney at the Southern District of New York, taking over the investigation into the Twin Towers, essentially covering it up. I wish that would all come out. I wish that would all unfold. I hope that they begin to investigate this, that they go all the way back to these time frames, especially when they indict Brennan and through what's going on with Comey right now. We'll see. I don't think we're going to be that lucky. Donald Trump, just moments ago on Truth Social, Jeffrey Epstein, who is in charge. So number one is he signed the Jeffrey Epstein files release bill. Kind of weird because Congress has no authority to tell the DOJ or the executive branch what they can or cannot release. It's just odd. But I think that it was more of a kind of an optics thing more than anything. Donald Trump putting his signature on it, signing the release of these documents, which I think we're going to see some stuff, but we're not going to see all the stuff. But he says Jeffrey Epstein, who is charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians, was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures, such as Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards, including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged, Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed. Because I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everybody knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, to pass this bill in the House and Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of the passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over one single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from the amazing victories, including the great, big, beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men and women sports, transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding our military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested in the United States, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat to the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, Ukraine, impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunts and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country, and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract the great job of Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. The latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all the rest have. Thank you for the attention on this matter, making America great again. So Donald Trump dropping some bombs and hints right there, specifically stating that the next tranche of information coming out about Epstein is going to implicate the Democrats. Now, I don't think it's going to be Democrats that are compromised by Jeffrey Epstein. Instead, what I think it's going to be is the Democrats colluding with Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump is going to pull the veil back, and show you that from 2016 to 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein was alive, the Democrats were colluding with him to plant evidence directly and have Jeffrey Epstein be the mechanism to try to take down Donald Trump. It was one of the main reasons why Donald Trump actually pressed for the DOJ to go in there and arrest him. It was Bill Barr who actually arrested him. This information couldn't have been used during the Trump's first term. I heard that they were going to try to release it before the 2020 election, but they didn't need it. The reason it couldn't be released during the first term is because the Democrats, the radical left, the deep state, didn't have full access and capacity to all the Epstein records to remove the files that are incriminating to themselves. Now, the reason they brought this up more recently, stating that Donald Trump, remember, Elon came out and planted the seed. Donald Trump's in the Epstein files. And the Democrats went, oh my God, Donald Trump's in the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Everybody from The View on all the Colburn to everywhere else, all saying release the Epstein files. Why? Because they were assured that their names were already removed, that the Joe Biden, FBI, and DOJ went in there and they scrubbed the shit out of all of those documents. We actually know this for a fact. Anna Paula Luna came out and said a whistleblower has came forth confirming.
Today, let's talk about Bill Clinton. For all the talk regarding Jeffrey Epstein, so much of it in many corners focuses on President Trump. But it's not President Trump who had a painting in Jeffrey Epstein's house wearing a dress and high heels. It's not President Trump who'd been to the island. It's not President Trump who's littered throughout the emails by others talking about, hey, Jeff, I saw your boy at Davos. Why are we not talking about Bill Clinton?
Well, I think it's important to note that even from the beginning of my task force in January of this year, I was really pushing to figure out what the deal was with these documents. And in around February timeframe, I was made aware by a whistleblower, of which I have since reported this to the FBI. And it was actually the only outlet in the country that would report on our findings was Fox News. We had actually reported that we were made aware of a whistleblower that under the former deputy director of the FBI, so under Biden's FBI, there was destruction of evidence specifically pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and potential evidence tampering. I think that that's pretty important to note because I went public with this and not one member of Congress, really for the most part, a majority of Republicans weren't even tracking that.
Oh, you don't say. Exactly what I've been saying for years. The Democrats used 2020 to 2024 to go in there and destroy all evidence of collusion, Russia, all evidence of past crimes from the Obama administration, all evidence connecting and linking them to Donald Trump or to Jeffrey Epstein, and then planting evidence that they had acquired during that time frame, 2016 to 2020, on Donald Trump. That's why he came out and called it Democrat hoax. That's why he made the moves he did. And the people demanded the release of these documents, and now he's going to reveal the truth because the Democrats believe these documents are destroyed. They're not. See, one thing the Democrats haven't learned because these people are stupid is just like John Brennan went on CNN after declassified evidence started coming out against him pertaining to Russiagate, Pfizergate. And he said that this is Russian propaganda. These documents don't exist. And the reason he said that, because he knew those documents were destroyed, which they were. The Democrats and the DOJ, they went in there and they destroyed these documents. Well, you know, Kash Patel and Pam Bondi come out and say, hey, look, there's a skiff on the 7th floor of the FBI. Nobody even knew. It was in a broom closet. Nobody even knew it was there. It was a private skiff under lock and key. And we went in there and sure enough, burn bags full of classified documents. You got Russia, and now you're going to have Epstein that was found in burn bags. Military intelligence. The greatest military intelligence operation ever ran is happening right now. And from 2018 to 2025, until Donald Trump came back in the office, I guarantee you, and this is my theory, that a special access program was operating, spying directly on the Biden White House, the Biden DOJ, had FISA warrants open and ready out there already on these people as they transitioned into government in 2020 and followed their every move, preserving all the documents that they attempted to destroy. Donald Trump called out Larry Summers. He has resigned now from the board of OpenAI. This guy is completely removing himself from all of society. Representative James Comer has issued subpoenas for JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein's financial records. I talked about this last night. So you had Virgin Islands prosecutor Denise George, who is investigating the Epstein crime in the Virgin Islands. She has subpoenaed people like Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Google. She had subpoenaed Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan. She subpoenaed Jeffrey Epstein's tax records from JP Morgan Chase and from Deutsche Bank. And what happened? She got fired. That was during the Biden administration. She got fired. Now you have James Comer going out there and subpoenaing the same records. What are they going to find? They're going to find a dark money channel. They're going to see how money was moved through Epstein to proxy businesses and through organizations that don't really exist, and how illicit funds were moved through this whole system to become legitimized funds through various structured investments. And guess what you're going to find? That it's connected to Democrats, that it's connected to politicians, that it's connected to people like George Soros. Let's just listen to our good friend here, Jim Jordan, and listen to what he has to say about Jeffrey Epstein on the House floor.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
We all support holding bad guys accountable, and we're all going to vote for this resolution. But I think a little perspective is important. Democrats have spent 6 months talking about Epstein, even though they had 4 years to do something about it. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Maybe it's to go after President Trump. Never forget, they shut down the government for 43 days. They said, don't worry about our military, don't worry about air traffic controllers, don't worry about our economy, don't worry about American families. No, no, no. Close the government for a month and a half because it might hurt the president. For the past decade, there's been one constant for Democrats. One constant. Go after Trump. They spied on his campaign. Then it was Mueller. Then it was impeachment 1. Then it was impeachment 2. Then it was all the lawfare. Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Letitia James. Then it was Arctic Frost investigation at the Justice Department, surveilling United States senators and congressmen, and a whole host of other Americans. Then it was Jack Smith and his gag orders and his raiding President Trump's home. Then it was a 43-day shutdown, and now it's Epstein. And by the way, the same party that did all that, they were also the ones who were texting with Mr. Epstein during a hearing where Michael Cohen was their witness in another effort to go after the president. Americans see through it all, and frankly, it's actually kind of sad. This obsession, this syndrome, this mindset that says we got to go after President Trump no matter what that they have. And when I think about it, I think it's because President Trump and Republicans have accomplished so much that they told the voters they were going to accomplish in the 2024 election. We're actually doing what we said we were going to do. President Trump said he was going to cut taxes, and he did. President Trump said he would secure the border, and he did. President Trump said he'd get men out of women's sports, and he did. President Trump said he would make sure Iran doesn't have nuclear capability, and he did. And he said he would get the hostages out of Gaza back into Israel, and he did. All in 9 months. So I don't know what causes this mindset, this syndrome that the left has, but
I know what causes this syndrome that the left has. Corruption. What causes it is that there's a system. They've been in control for the longest time, and they're losing the power over the system. So they cheated. They tried to steal the system back and got caught. And so they try to pull out every trick in the book to ensure that they can try to retain the power and control. But it's over for them. This is why I said I'm not worried about the midterm elections. I'm still going to vote, and as you should too, go out and vote. But I believe that the midterm elections are going to prove one thing, that we are watching the death, the end of the Democratic Party. And not that we're not going to have a two-party system. I think that there's plans actually in play, America Party and these other ones that are trying to pull in the vacuum that's going to be created, when the Democratic Party begins to crash. And I think it's getting closer every day. That right now you have the Epstein whole caseload inside everybody's mind, left and right. Why? Because the left firmly believed that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files. And the emails came out. Jeffrey Epstein saying that Donald Trump's an evil man, Donald Trump's a bad man, with no substantiation of evidence, nothing else. These emails are very interesting because of the time frame that they came out. It's the same time that Michael Cohen is testifying. You have Plaskett that's sitting there texting Jeffrey Epstein, disposing Michael Cohen. At the same time, Jeffrey Epstein's emailing Michael Wolff saying that Donald Trump, I got secrets on Donald Trump. Democrat scam. It was a setup. They were trying to set Donald Trump up, and it's backfiring on them. And now all the people on the left are about to see the trove of evidence that comes out about Jeffrey Epstein. And it'll be hard not to notice the corruption, the collusion. It'll be hard not to notice the members of the Democrat Party that were coerced and maybe even blackmailed into abiding by this deep state infrastructure that was utilizing them specifically for their vote and their power, how money flowed back and forth. It's a thread that once you begin to pull, unravels everything. The same thing with FISAgate. This is what I said. It all starts with FISAgate, the foundation built on layers. And what did we say? All three movies playing at the same time, right? FISAgate, Guardians of the Pedophiles, Panic in DC. All three movies playing simultaneously right now. Unbelievable. I don't care about that one. Fox News has learned multiple arrests are underway or imminent in the transnational drug ring of former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding, who's on the FBI's most wanted list with a $10 million bounty for being the murderous mastermind of a drug ring that ships cocaine from Canada into the United States. Canadian press has reported one of the arrests. Wedding is believed to be hiding out in Mexico and protected by the cartels. Let me give you a little hint here, okay? Because a gringo, a white guy, who's in with the cartels, massive pusher of cocaine in Canada into the United States of America. The moment that operation is done and there's no more benefit to the cartels, that person is worthless to the cartels. There are no more friends. If he was hiding out in Mexico, I guarantee you his hands, his feet, and his head have already been cut off, and he's been fed to wild pigs. Guaranteed. There's no way if this guy was in Mexico that he's still alive. Why? Because he's a liability for the cartels. So is he in Mexico? Probably not. Is he still in Canada? Probably not. Is he in the United States? Likelihood. More likely that he's in a country like the Caribbean. He's in some remote island somewhere. Why? Because you're not going to stick around and you're not going to be near any cartels and you're not going to be anywhere you can be tracked or traced. You're going to head to third world countries where nobody knows your name and people don't look like you and you can't stand out. Now, do I think the guy's going to get caught? I think he's already dead. I think the cartel's already placed a hit on him and he's been dead a while. They probably will never find him. Jim Jordan has represented Jack Smith's former deputy, Thomas Wyndham, to the DOJ for prosecution. So Jim Jordan sent a letter to AG Pam Bondi today, and we'll go ahead and read this right here. We'll put it on the big screen. Move it over. I'm trying to move it over with my mouse. It's not moving over. You pay all this money for, oh, there we go. The Committee of the Judiciary writes to refer significant evidence that Thomas Wyndham, former senior assistant special counsel to Jack Smith, has, by his conduct during a deposition before the committee, obstructed a congressional investigation under 18 U.S.C. 1505. A witness, as relevant here, violates the law when he corruptly obstructs or impedes or endeavors to influence, obstruct, or impede the due and proper exercise of the power of the committee of the Congress. Congress cannot perform its oversight function if witnesses who appear before its committees corruptly refuse to provide information that the law requires them to furnish. The obstruction of the committee investigation undermines Congress's core constitutional oversight obligation. The committee is providing this information for the Department of Justice to investigate potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1505. The points below support an inquiry into whether Wyndham obstructed the committee's investigation of the DOJ and specifically the Office of Special Counsel Jack Smith. Number one, the committee is exercising its power to inquire regarding programs and operations of the Department of Justice. Now, everybody's sitting there, including me, going, why wasn't this Jack Smith? Why are they not sending referrals to the DOJ for Jack Smith? The reason is because you're going to take out the low-hanging fruit. You're going to start with the senior assistant special counsel to Jack Smith. You're going to get him into the DOJ. You're going to process him. You're going to indict him, right? You're going to get him in. Then you're going to say, we got everything on you. We know everything about you. We know about the money moving around. We know about all the deals you made. And you're not getting immunity in this one unless you talk. And that's when he's going to start talking about the corroboration between Jack Smith and the Biden White House and the general counsel, talking about the corroboration between the January 6th committee and Jack Smith, talking about the sharing and leaking of evidence from the January 6th committee to Jack Smith, talking about the state of Georgia's collusion with Jack Smith, New York's collusion, Fannie Willis's collusion with Jack Smith. Oh, it's going to be good. That's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people. The Department of Justice has indicted Florida Democratic Representative Sheila McCormick for stealing $5 million in FEMA funds through her family's healthcare business, laundering the money into her 2021 campaign and personal accounts, and filing false tax returns. This is fucking absurd. But this is the politics of the Democrats, people. Now, I'm not saying it's not Republicans, but I haven't seen any Republicans get indicted under the Biden DOJ for anything like this. Miami, a federal grand jury in Miami has returned an indictment charging Congresswoman Sheila McCormick and several co-defendants with stealing federal disaster funds, laundering the proceeds, and using the money to support her 2021 congressional campaign. According to the indictment, McCormick, 46, and her brother Edwin Cherfilis, 51, both of Miramar, worked through their family healthcare company on a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract in 2021. In July 2021, the company received an overpayment of $5 million, an overpayment of $5 million in FEMA funds. An overpayment? Almost like that was on purpose. The indictment alleges the defendants conspired to steal the $5 million and routed it through multiple accounts to disguise its source. Prosecutors allege that the substantial portion of the misappropriated funds was used as a candidate contribution to Sheriff McCormick's 2001 congressional campaign and for the personal benefit of the defendants. And who's the one that brought this indictment? U.S. Attorney Jason Redding Quinones from the Southern District of Florida stated, today's indictment shows no one is above the law. The indictment reflects our office's commitment to follow the acts, apply the law, protect the American taxpayer. Public money belongs to the American people. When FEMA funds are diverted for personal or political gain, it erodes the trust and harms us all. We will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to ensure that American taxpayer dollars are used as intended and that public trust is safeguarded. So I want you to see this from an optical picture. See, you take out the low-hanging fruit. How many in the House of Representatives in other states are shitting their pants right now, knowing that they're being investigated and they're probably next? That's the panic in DC that we're talking about. Bring the next one up here. This is funny. Congressional Republicans have banned Representative Dan Crenshaw from international travel for 3 months after an alcohol-related episode during a delegation trip in Mexico. This guy, Texas, remove this dude. Get rid of him. You don't need him anymore. Find someone better. Replace this dude. It's unbelievable. Like, come on. Primary Dan Crenshaw, please, Texas. And we're going to go in here real quick. Just going to run this. One of my favorites right here. All right, for all my Rumble users, if you like this ad, by the way, go in and jump in Rumble, and you can click on the links over there. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee. Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for your clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a golden spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you, 1776 Coffee. I appreciate that. John Solomon with new info on the Comey case. And so this is interesting. This was yesterday. And then we're going to find the rebuttal to it almost immediately today. And the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan is on point. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Listen to this.
Just a little while ago, we've learned some new things about FBI Director James Comey's case. We're learning from court documents that our good colleague Jerry Dunleavy looked at that they're going to argue that one part of James Comey's obstruction of Congress was denying or claiming he had no idea about a Hillary Clinton intercept in which he approved a plan to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house. Yep, back in 2016. Remember, the government intercepted that. Comey always said, I don't know if that rings a bell with me. I'm not sure that happened. Well, his own notes show he knew about it. He actually wrote it in his notes. The government is going to argue, if it gets to trial, that James Comey was obstructing Congress by feigning knowledge of that incredible development. That's a big one that we're keeping.
That is a big one. So the judge is arguing, oh, well, this shouldn't be prosecuted. I don't think that this should be prosecuted. Well, Mike Davis just a few hours ago went and published this one. Lindsay Halligan pushing directly back against these radicalized judges who are trying to stop the Comey indictment. U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan corrects the record and slams magistrates' reckless attempt to derail Comey's prosecution. The U.S. Attorney's declaration confirms the events that occurred following the grand jury proceeding. The court's reporter's contemporaneous email confirms it. The grand jury for persons open court statement confirms it. And the transcript itself confirms it. The confusion arises solely from the magistrate judge's misinterpretation of the administrative correction, removing count 1 from the indictment after the grand jury returned a true bill on counts 2 and 3. That adjustment simply reflected the grand jury's vote. It was neither unusual nor improper. So yesterday, a judge tried to shut down Comey's indictment once again, saying that the entire grand jury never voted on these indictments. And Lindsay Halligan just proved them wrong. And you're going to see more of this. You're going to see more of these federal judges being completely weaponized. And that's okay because they identified themselves to raising their hand in a crowd. And now Congress has the authority and the ability to go in there and impeach them. And this is what we need to see. We need to see Congress go in there and impeach them. But one of the things that we have to do is, number one, we need term limits. I don't care. We need fucking term limits, and we need term limits yesterday. Why? Because I want to run for Minnesota Congressional District 6 and replace Tom Emmer. He's been in Congress too long. I like the guy Quasi, but I think it's time that he takes a break and Josh Reid steps in. That would be pretty cool. I think if Tom Emmer, if they get term limits or Tom Emmer has to go, I'm definitely running. I would say that. Just say it. Okay, but Congress has made massive amounts of money on their investments. And I find it interesting that it's just now coming up to where we're seeing a bipartisan bill being formed to stop it. Listen to this.
Thank you, Proud Paul. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Brian. Somebody asked me if I was going to wear my jacket up there, and I said, to to quote the immortal words of Henry Winkler when he played the Fonz, I always rumble in this jacket, because that's what we're up against. This is a fist fight, folks. Now, first, I guess I need to thank Chairman Stiles and the committee, the House Administration Committee, for taking this up, because I realize what we're up against. I mean, this is, everybody talks about this place being a dadgum swamp. It's not a swamp. A swamp is something cool God created. It filters water. Animal life lives and flourishes around it. This is a sewer. This is created by man, and it needs to stop. We've, for years, Congress has been using hardworking American taxpayers' money to get rich. Dadgum, it's got to stop. America knows what the heck's going on. Everybody wants to knock Pelosi. Heck, she's not even in the top 10. Get on that Unusual Whales site. This is pathetic, folks. We all know what's going on. Congress knows what the hell's going on, and it needs to stop. This body has been enriching itself on the taxpayers' dime for too dadgum long, and it's got to stop. This place is crooked and is as crooked as a dog's leg. That's an old East Tennessee saying, but it's the truth, and it needs to stop. America knows what's going on. We're in committee meetings. We hear things before y'all do. We can make those connections. When you see a member of this body making 400, 500, 600 trades a year, you know something's wrong. Everybody ought to do like I do. I got my buddy Tommy Siler invested in my mutual fund. I ended up having to cash it out because my daughter's going to school. I'm not a wealthy man. But look, this thing is broken, and it needs to be fixed, and this is the right avenue to do it. And I want to say something. I'm going to get these guys mad at me, but I really don't care because they can't vote in my district. This thing ain't going to pass. If we're going to pass something in the House, and then guess what? The Senate will either, one, not take it up, or they'll come back in righteous indignation and say, oh, we need to make this stronger, something totally ridiculous, and they'll send it back to us. This is a scam that's being played on the American public, and it needs to stop. Let's quit with this nonsense. Let's give America a reason to trust Congress for once in our miserable lives. This is our chance to stand up and say, we hear what you're saying, America. We're going to fix this dadgum problem, but we probably won't do it. And I'll remain ticked off the rest of the day because of this, and it needs to stop. I want to thank all these folks, really. I joke around about it.
All right. Tim Burchett is my favorite congressman, by the way. I like him. That's the kind of guy I would be if I was in Congress. Just saying. But he's right. Power is incentivized in Washington, D.C. This is the reason for all the crime and corruption and collusion and coups, because power is incentivized. When you go into a committee hearing and you hear that so-and-so company is going to get a massive government contract in the next 5 months, you're going to go out there and you're going to buy 2,000 shares of that company, and then you're going to make a killing when the contract's actually announced. Congressmen shouldn't have that ability. That's called insider trading. We need a constitutional amendment that protects us. We need term limits put in place so congressmen and women cannot serve longer than 12 years. And I say that because Senate is 4-year terms, congressmen are 2-year terms, and so 6 congressional terms or 3 senatorial terms. And I would say the same for a president. President should be able to serve 12 years if he wants to. I'm okay with that. But we need term limits through and through. 12 years should be the longest that you can serve in government. There's a lot more that needs to be fixed. You need to ban the lobby. Get rid of the fucking lobby. Get rid of foreign government influence. Get rid of corporate, mega corporation influence. Get rid of biopharma influence in Congress. You know, I've written this out multiple different times, and I know that if I ever got into a political state, I would not be able to implement this because nobody's ever going to agree to this. But this is my idea. This is my thought. There should be a law on the book stating that a person running for office in a district, let's say that there's 2 candidates running for office in a district, that they should not be able to receive more than $1,000 per constituent. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Is if you have 20,000 people in your district, 20,000 people in your district, 20,000 times 8,000 is 200, 2 million, right? $20 million. So the most money that can be allocated amongst all the candidates is $20 million total. Can't go over $20 million. And it can only come from constituents. So now when you have candidate A and candidate B, and candidate A raises $15 million and candidate B raises $5 million, but candidate B wins the election, there's an investigation. That doesn't make sense. The maths don't add up. That's the type of system that we need, to where only constituents in a district can donate to a candidate. I think that that is probably would be one of the greatest changes in politics ever made. Donald Trump's administration announced yesterday they'd taken the first steps to dismantle the Department of Education. Trump administration said it'll start to transfer some of the education department's largest grant programs and major portions of several offices to other federal agencies in the beginning of the dismantling of the Department of Education. Why is the Department of Education so damn dangerous? Why is centralized education in this country through the federal government so damn dangerous? Why does it need to go back to the states through the 10th Amendment and become a competitive environment? Well, this lady explains it all.
Okay. You're saying they're brainwashing. Okay, you're saying these people that are experts in brainwashing is using the Department of Education to brainwash our children.
Yes.
What are they after? Why are they doing it?
Well, if you want to move a country from a free individualistic economy,
which we have.
Yes, or had.
Or had, okay.
To a planned economy, you have to do it through the schools. You have to dumb down and brainwash, change the attitudes and values. You have to completely, social engineering has to go on constantly, and many teachers know what I'm talking about. And people are going to say, well, when did this start? And who on earth ever did this? Why would a plan like that be allowed to be carried out?
That's right.
Well, then you have to go back to 1934, which I will do, and we have to go to the three-pronged fork, okay? So I do think that the watershed year, although you can go back to the early part of the century when the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Corporation were deeply involved in education, and that it was decided then that Carnegie would deal with the international part and Rockefeller domestic. They commissioned the American Historical Association to put together a study of the social studies, and they came up with lots of volumes, but I have one little volume, Conclusions and Recommendations for the Social Studies. And basically that little one is an original book. I wish I'd brought it with me. Too bad. But I don't even dare let it out of the house. It's so important. It called for changing the United States through the schools from a free individualistic economy to a socialist, collectivized, planned economy in the New World Order.
It says that in the book?
Yes.
And that book was written when?
In 1934.
By who?
It was the Carnegie Corporation paid for it. The American Historical Association put it together. And
can people get that book in the library?
No. No, they can't. They were very instrumental in getting the Elementary and Secondary Education Act passed, which, as I said before, changed education from knowledge, content-based, academic, to performance-based behavior.
So, in other words, psychological warfare operations were implemented within the U.S. education system. Social engineering at its finest. Just like Yuri Bezmenov, who did the famous 1991 interview, where he was talking about, and he was a defector from the Soviet communism, or from the Soviet Union, came to the United States through Canada, did an interview talking about how the communists, the Bolsheviks, they have a method of how they're going to infiltrate the United States of America and take over the education systems. They're going to start with the colleges and the universities. They're going to train the teachers, and how the teachers are going to go into the elementary schools and the middle schools, and they're going to begin to take over and implement the ideals of communism in there. Social engineering an entire nation. Boom diggity, $2 Rumble rant. And unfortunately, bro, please do not, don't put links like that in there. Don't care about them. I'm deleting your message. Thanks for the Rumble rant, but never again. So thanks, mods, for taking care of that. Appreciate it. We talked about the gringo with a $10 million bounty. Department of Education. All right. Now, this is where this gets interesting. John Curacao, former CIA, I don't want to say operative. He wasn't an operative. He was a major operations manager. But listen to what he says here.
The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
So according to your source, the Israelis told the president of the United States that if he did not use the United States military power to bomb the nuclear facilities in Iran, Israel, acting on its own, would use nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Do you see why there's a problem with that statement, John?
Yeah.
Because they've never admitted that they've had them.
That's right.
So you're telling me that they just admitted to the president of the United States that they have nuclear weapons and we still do not have them in the IAEA treaty?
I mean, if Israeli nuclear whistleblowers are to be believed, yeah, they've had them. They started working on them in the 50s. They got them around the late 60s or the early 70s. Look at Mordechai Vanunu.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't charged for treason for nothing.
That's the guy who they hid in Rome with the honeypot?
Yeah.
Yeah, 86.
Okay.
The
reason I wanted to pull that up because is if you go back to March, April, May timeframe when the Israel-Iran conflict was beginning and happening. On this show, I sat here and told all of you that we had gotten word, intelligence, that Israel was prepared to utilize nuclear weapons. They had told Donald Trump that they were going to utilize nuclear weapons. This is at the same time that Turkey came out and formed the 36 nation of Arab leagues, came out and said that if Israel uses nuclear weapons, we're going to interfere. This is when Pakistan came forth and says, if you nuke Iran, we're going to come after you and nuke your ass. It's almost like Donald Trump's hand was forced on Iran. This is why there was back channels open. This is why you had the Army Chief of Staff in Pakistan visiting the White House the day before the U.S. strike on Iran, of which Iran comes out and says that we had 24-hour notice. We knew it was going to happen. We removed everything and everybody from those facilities. There's zero casualties. That's exactly what Donald Trump wanted. And then Iran repaid the favor when they tried to strike in Qatar, notifying Qatar and the United States hours in advance before the strike actually happened. In other words, the progressor in this whole situation was Israel. Israel was the one threatening to end the world because of a threat they deemed that no intelligence existed on. And someone just said, USA is the hostage. I agree to a certain level, but you have to understand Donald Trump's counterpunch to that. Since that time frame, Donald Trump has taken the U.S. military and military-industrial complex and implemented surrounding Israel with U.S. weapons, U.S. defense cooperation agreements, and new allies, announcing yesterday that Saudi Arabia is the strongest non-NATO, largest non-NATO ally of the United States of America, giving them massive amounts of new arms deals. You have Qatar, you have UAE, Egypt, Turkey. You're going to have Syria that's going to jump into this once Syria becomes a little bit more westernized. They're going to get an arms cooperation agreement. You're going to find Jordan's in on that. In other words, that Israel is surrounded by new U.S. allies that are very well armed by the United States of America. It's a way to neutralize them, but also westernize that whole region because nobody's going to drop bombs on billions of dollars of new infrastructure. Pretty smart plan by Donald Trump. He neutralized a threat by utilizing deals and negotiations. Oh, I love this one. The new Trump plan to end the war in Ukraine would grant Russia parts of eastern Ukraine it does not currently control in exchange for a U.S. security guarantee for Ukraine and Europe against future Russian aggression. I want you to know that if Ukraine ends up confirming this and agreeing with this, and Russia does go to those areas are going to be in Donetsk, in the eastern Donbass. And there's going to be cooperative agreements with Russia and the United States on the mineral rights and the oil rights in those regions. It's all about resources, people. It's all about the allocation of resources. That's what all of this war is all about that we're seeing right now. Why? Because it all rises up to the point of artificial intelligence and what is coming down with artificial intelligence, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Want to go in here, just check real quick. Man, nothing I use and nothing good in there. We'll check back in a few minutes. Oh, you got to love this. This is just comical. This is just amazing, isn't it? So we're going to blow this article up. Look at this one for a second. CIA insurer was sold to Chinese firm and nobody noticed till it was too late. Once upon a time in 2016, first Trump administration, a Chinese company with deep ties to Beijing quietly bought Right USA, an insurer for CIA and FBI agents. The same folks who really don't like leaks. The $1.2 billion deal funneled through offshore loans and shell companies gave Beijing potential access to highly personal info on U.S. intelligence personnel. Totally legal at the time? Wild, right? The U.S. freaked out, launched an investigation, and made the Chinese firm sell it back. It also led to tighter investment laws under Trump to keep foreign money, especially China's, out of America's sensitive section. Turns out this wasn't a one-off. The new data set reveals China has spent over $2.1 trillion abroad since 2000, buying up tech, shipping ports, semiconductors, and apparently spy insurance. The playbook used massive state banks to quietly scoop up key assets, sometimes through friendly-looking private companies. Global rivals finally caught on. They're now scrambling to pay defense. So law enforcement, FBI agents, CIA agents, they need to hold certain levels of insurance. And China owned the company and were stealing all the data. Then finding out who worked for the CIA and the FBI. And now they had a point of the press, people to go out there and target. Social engineering. The U.S. trade deficit under President Donald Trump has plummeted to a year low of $59.6 billion. Imagine that. You know, a few years ago, we were at hundreds of $300 billion trade deficit globally. $59.6 billion in just 11 months under Donald Trump. Fucking amazing. No, I'll pull this one up. This is comical. So, and actually, I want to go in there and add a picture into this because this is just comical. We're going to look at an image that NASA released today of 3i Atlas. So NASA took all of its high-level technology, of its billions of dollars of a budget, went out there and put this image out there of 3i Atlas. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to refresh this screen and I'm going to show you something here. This is NASA's image of 3i Atlas. It looks like it's looking through clouds. Interesting, right? Well, here is an amateur astronomer from Earth looking at 3i Atlas. The fuck? You know, I don't want to say that it's a conspiracy. I don't want to say that, you know, there's the 3i Atlas is just a comet, guys. Go back to bed. It's okay. But then NASA does this. Oh my God, look at these images of 3i Atlas. Grainy through fog. You can't see anything but a glowing dot. I took better pictures of Jupiter with my telescope with an iPhone through the eye. That's scary. Because that means that NASA covering it up is why it's scary. All right, gonna go in here real quick. Gotta check this out. I guess we'll do, let me see here. Actually, let me check this one out real quick. All right, let's do this one. This will be a new one. I've never used them, but let's check them out on Rumble. If you're interested in it, head on over to Rumble. This is Emerald Med. All right. I want to share with you a quick story about a farming family supporting this channel. 8 years ago, they had a brother return from Afghanistan with significant injuries. They watched as he became a shell of his former self and struggled a lot with health. We can't share his exact story because of FDA restrictions, but friends kept suggesting CBD. So they tried dozens of CBD products, but nothing helped. Out of frustration, they began to create their own. They started making it to help friends. Family have CBD that they knew was as clean and powerful as possible. Then doctors started asking to carry it, and it took off. Now they speak at medical conventions and help others across the United States. Well, most companies have 1 to 10 compounds in CBD oil. Their oil has up to 50. They have 8 things that make them different. They make bombs, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med. You should check out these guys. If you get their CBD and don't notice a big difference, they'll actually provide a refund. If you want to support a company that supports our channel and free speech with marketing dollars, and you need a source for CBD that's real, they're running an early Black Friday deal. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med 40% off today. Get extreme muscle and joint relief, support quality sleep, or even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once. Just click the link below and use the code 40% off up to 2 items. And so guys can go to my Rumble. You can find the link in the chat, in the live chat. You can find it underneath in the description. You can also find it on the screen if you just review back a little bit. Didn't realize that 3i Atlas was still up there. All right, let's go to the woman, Melania.
Technology is changing the art of war. Predictably, AI will alter war more profoundly than any technology since nuclear weapons. The most significant change will be speed. Speed in weaponry, decision-making, detection, attack, and defense. Artificial intelligence will take center stage in the theater of war. It already plays a meaningful role on the battlefield. Of course, it is the Marine who will always play the most critical role in realizing mission success. Technology is changing.
Did she just say Art of War and Marines together? Oh, you gotta love Melania. Now, why do I bring up Melania talking about artificial intelligence? So the last few weeks, we've watched the United States companies and other companies around the world release their own AI robots. We haven't seen Teslas yet, which I'm excited about. But these ones that are running in the mirrors and dropping pans in the kitchen and starting fires are 10 levels of shit down. Well, America is building robots that are creating household accidents. China is building the fucking Terminator. Yes. Imagine what happens when you tap AI into this behemoth. I love how they name it the T-800 because Terminator was a T-2000, the T-2, the T-1. They are unveiling their combat robots for military utilization in December of 2025. So Joe Allen has leaked a draft of Trump's new AI executive order. It would let the Fed sue any state that tries to regulate AI and puts David Sachs in charge of reviewing hundreds of state laws. This is about who controls the future of AI. Trump said child protection and censorship rules would be included. Then that actually disappeared from the executive order. Now, why is it important for national security for states not to regulate AI? Well, because what we are dealing with is literally T-800 Terminators from China that are going to have advanced AIs in them that are going to be combat robots that know how to shoot straight, that know how to go into combat and operate like Tier 1 Special Forces operators that can go out there and take 10 men for every robot that's killed. This is what we're up against. We are in an AI Cold War. In this AI Cold War, what is happening right now, it's a race to artificial superintelligence. That is about infrastructure. That's about resources. I mentioned earlier about Ukraine. It's about resources. It's about allocating those resources to the country that can sustain it the longest, utilize those resources, and build the infrastructure out for the next level of technology, which is artificial intelligence. If you're interested in blockchain, a few different things about this. I gotta just stop, pause myself. I got my crypto course, which will be launching on my our Repill shop. So it'll be on our merch store, and soon, within the next day or two, you'll be able to go out there and purchase the Repill, not Repill, but my crypto course that I made. It's 6 modules. It's like 4 or 5 hours long. And it also comes with a free ebook that you can get with it. So I will be putting that out here in the next few days if you're interested in blockchain. If you noticed on my Substack, I posted 3 articles today. One was I was looking into the Amelia Earhart stuff, and I was absolutely fascinated by these declassified documents. There's like, I think there's over like 14,000 documents. I went through probably a good 800 of those documents looking for answers, because it's just always one thing that's interested me. And so out of what I researched out of those documents, I wrote a Substack article about, well, I got the hiccups. I wrote a Substack article about it, of my thoughts of what happened to Amelia Earhart and why the U.S. government is still covering it up to this day. So you can find that redpillproject.substack.com. There's 2 other articles on there. One is just kind of an article that is a thought that I had driving. And I've talked about it on Fringe a few different times, but what if the extraterrestrials are visiting us, but what if they're not much more advanced than us? What if they just had a different level of technological development? So there's an article about that. And then there's another one out there, which is actually a white paper. It's an abstract that I've been working on for like 4 or 5 months now about quantum Bitcoin, because one of the big problems that we find with artificial intelligence and quantum computing that's going to come into the technological landscape is blockchains that are going to be secure. And so I wrote this abstract white paper out there about quantum Bitcoin, how it operate, how it would function, the various different algorithms and techniques that we can utilize, the quantum zero proofs that would operate within it. Check it out. Let me know what you think. If you're out there and you like what you hear and you're someone who's in that world, reach out to me. Love to talk to you. But that's redpillproject.substack.com. And all of those are on the free side, nothing on the premium side there today. I do have an Epstein article coming out. It's pretty lengthy. I've been working on that the last few days, but you keep on adding more stuff in as things go on. So that'll be coming out in the next few days. Tomorrow night, we had the live Q&A after the show. So tomorrow night, live Q&A. Make sure you are a premium member on any of our channels to get in on that. That's going to be Locals. That's going to be X. That's going to be socialredpill.com. And that's going to be Substack. If you subscribe to any of those channels, you can get in to our live Q&A tomorrow night directly after the show. And then coming in here, I can pull the Substack down. I'm going to be doing a little bit on Michael Leifelsberger because they're trying to cover this up. I think Alpha and I are actually going to cover this on a show that we're going to be doing. Alpha and I are going to be creating a premium show 1 day a week. That's going to be for our premium subscribers. It's going to be a 2-hour show. The first hour is going to be for everybody. The last hour is going to be on the premium, but they're going to be deep dive episodes, and it's going to be pretty cool. We were talking for like an hour and a half today discussing this show. So I hope you guys are excited as I am about that. I wanted to go through here. James Bowdoin, $5 Rumble Rant. Thanks, Josh. The best Daily Joe show out there that makes sense. Appreciate all your decode magic. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. LM Evans, $20 Rumble Rant. Josh, your work is amazing. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much, LM Evans. I appreciate that. And Susan DeBello, $2 Rumble Rant. Do you think the level of AI robots in America might be a little art of the war, appear weak when you're really strong? I think that the U.S. military has some pretty crazy shit when it comes to AI robots. You got to remember, Boston Dynamics has been building these things for quite a few many years. So I'm sure that these things are super advanced at that level and scope capability. But we don't know because they haven't unveiled them. China is just one of those that kind of puts it out in the world. I want to check YouTube real quick, see if any rants came or super chats came in on YouTube. It doesn't look like we had any super chats coming on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And if you guys are out there, if you're on my Rumble or anything like that, we do have backup channels. They are an X, our X profile at Real Joshua Reid. We also have Red Pill the World on X. That's one of our primary backups. We have our YouTube channel, and that's Red Pills TV on YouTube. You can find all of those at our primary website, redpills.tv. So I want to get all those announcements out. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Much love, respect. God bless. I'm going to leave you with the song that everybody loves. I get this song in my head all freaking day. So I hope that you have this song in your head all freaking day as well. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night, guys. See you next time. What the heck's going on here? Oh.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under. Patriots rise. We are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise. We are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time is near, the great awakening is here. Dark to light fell undone, patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave, no more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time. There was a time.